It's definitely fair to say that the Wii U has had a rough 2013 so far. With E3 just around the corner and summer games such as Pikmin 3, Game & Wario and The Wonderful 101 about to be released, I think it's also fair to say that the Wii U is starting to pick up. This is how most people would see it, but I don't think the Wii U has been as bad as people say over the last 6 months. The Virtual Console was launched, there were updates which greatly improved using the Wii U, and there were games released for the thing. The only problems arise is when you compare it to the PS3 and 360, which had Tomb Raider, Bioshock Infinite and so many other AAA titles. When compared to those games, the Wii U didn't really stand a chance. In this video I'll be taking a look at the main exclusive that came out over this time on the Wii U, which was LEGO City Undercover. I must say I haven't liked the recent LEGO games I've played due to how frustrating the puzzles were and how daunting and unrealistic getting 100% in them was. So, was LEGO City Undercover a great Wii U exclusive, or does it reinforce the idea that the Wii U doesn't have any games? Let's take a look. The story is about a super cop called Chase McCain who is trying to track down a super criminal called Rex Fury who has recently escaped from jail. Throughout the game you also go undercover in gangs and pursue a woman called Natalia. This is the first LEGO game made by Traveller's Tales that uses an original story and setting, as all the others have used licenses such as Star Wars. The charm of the other LEGO games though is definitely still present thanks to how good the LEGO characters look and the writing in the cutscenes. The jokes can be immature and silly, but they are all enjoyable at the same time. It's mostly aimed at children, but if you're a little older you will probably find yourself laughing at times. There is also plenty of parody of different films such as The Matrix and Starsky and Hutch, which works well. It's a simple story, but the large amount of cutscenes and dialogue in the game did keep me interested till the end of the game. Charming really is the best word to describe the cutscenes and story, and it's great that even though there's no license to parody in this game, Traveller's Tales managed to make LEGO City Undercover entertaining. Gameplay can be described as a LEGO version of GTA, although I was most reminded of The Simpsons Hit and Run. There are two features though that separate it from those games, the LEGO and the disguises. With this being a LEGO game, a lot of things are made out of LEGO. Not everything is made out of LEGO, but certain objects can be smashed and rebuilt depending on what you need. There are also two sorts of currency. One is the LEGO studs, which are scattered everywhere, which you need to buy unlockables. In the older LEGO games you needed so many studs to buy everything that collecting studs quickly became boring. In LEGO City though there are so many studs lying around that that's no longer a problem. The second currency, which is new to this game, is the LEGO bricks, which you get by smashing any LEGO object. You need the bricks to construct super builds throughout the city, which admittedly are just collectibles. The stud and super builds work as you're not forced to do them. If you want to completely ignore them then you can, as anytime you're required to make a super build the game gives you enough bricks to do it. You still need plenty of LEGO studs and bricks to get everything in the game, but getting them doesn't get in the way of the main gameplay as you obtain them no matter what you're doing. The different disguises are what separates LEGO City Undercover from the other LEGO games. You'll unlock disguises throughout the game which each have their own abilities, such as the fireman who can put out fires and chop open doors. It is cool using the disguises as they made it easy to switch between them, but in terms of gameplay most of the abilities are virtually the same. You walk into a circle on the floor, change to the right disguise and press A. Not all of them are like that, as with the farmer you can glide across areas using a chicken, but using the disguises isn't fun because of how interesting the abilities are. Instead they're fun because it makes for some good puzzle solving switching between them. You're given a task and you have to use the different disguises to eventually achieve that task. For example, you need to open a garage door, so first you use the space suit to activate a space cube which beams down a colour changer, and then you turn into the robber, load up your colour gun and fill in the missing areas on the door to open it. It does mean that the puzzles are complicated, especially the ones involving the disguises, but that's exactly how you want it to be in a LEGO game. They're not mindless, but nothing you'll get stuck on, which keeps the experience fun rather than frustrating. I compared LEGO City Undercover to GTA, and that's because it's an open world game. Outside of the missions you can jump into a car or a boat or a helicopter and explore LEGO City. While LEGO City isn't the biggest open world map out there, it's still fairly big and is very densely packed with collectibles, time trials, free runs, disguise booster builds, stunt exits and more. If you want to get 100%, you will spend a lot of time exploring every inch of the city, which is okay by me. I like open world games disguised like this, and it reminds me of Just Cause 2, which by the way I got 100% in. Everything you do goes towards your percentage completion, which makes even messing around feel worthwhile. For people who like to cause destruction in open world games, you might be disappointed. As you play as a policeman officer, that means there's no police system, so no matter what you do, no one will chase after you. You also can't attack normal civilians, and there are no weapons to blow stuff up with. For me, this makes exploring and finding secrets much better, as you don't have to worry about being interrupted. However, if you like the idea of causing mayhem in a LEGO world, this game isn't it. The missions involve chasing criminals down on foot, helping people out, taking part in car chases, as well as plenty of other things. The missions aren't anything groundbreaking, but as the controls are good and there's a nice variety to them, they are fun to play. While the missions take place in an open world, throughout the game's story you can also play proper levels called special assignments. There are 15 of them in the game, and they play like the levels did in the other LEGO games, where you go from area to area solving puzzles, exploring and fighting enemies. To beat a level you just need to get to the end of it, but to get 100% in it you have to find the hidden red brick, get a certain number of studs, find the hidden tokens and complete side quests to complete your police badge. It isn't possible to get 100% the first time you play through a level, so unfortunately you do have to revisit levels once you beat the game. It isn't too bad though, as you can get everything after a second playthrough, and I'm thankful to say getting enough studs to fill the LEGO City Hero bar isn't as bad as it was in other LEGO games. If you go out your way to collect studs, then you'll probably get it, as there's a good amount of studs around and there's very few cheap deaths. With this being a Wii U game, let's talk about the Gamepad. The Gamepad is used as a multi-purpose scanner which you can take video calls with, scan audio from a distance, etc. You have to hold it up in front of you and then you move the Gamepad around as if you're in the game looking around the 3D space. It is used in the story missions a good amount, but all you really have to do is hold up the Gamepad and hold A for the missions. What makes it useful is that you can activate the scanner at any time to look around you to find collectibles. In other LEGO games you pretty much had to cheat to find all the collectibles by either looking online for a guide or using the red brick cheats, but in this game, thanks to the scanner, you will never find yourself being annoyed enough to cheat to find everything. A feature missing from this game though is being able to play the game off screen on only the Gamepad. With how much time you need to spend searching everywhere, it would have been nice to mindlessly play it on just the Gamepad rather than the big TV. I have very little complaints about the gameplay of LEGO City Undercover, but the game still has one major problem: the loading times. Whenever you load up a game you have to sit through a loading screen that takes around a minute to get to the main menu, only to have to sit through another long loading screen to get to the actual game. There aren't actually many loading screens in the actual game itself, as they only show up when you're going into a level or returning to a main area of LEGO City. I can't completely excuse how long it takes to load, but honestly I got used to them after playing the game for a bit, and once you've fully loaded up the game it isn't too bad. I also don't mind it, as when exploring LEGO City itself there isn't any loading, which is nice considering how much there is in the city. The loading can probably be attributed to just how much content the game has, as to download the game from the eShop you need 22 GB of space, which is huge. I won't complain though, as it makes for a good length game with great replay value, as it took me 13 hours to get to the end of the game and I only had a 26.2% completion rate. There are also other technical problems that are common to open world games, such as glitches, and the game did freeze on me once. There is also a lot of pop-in, but it isn't too distracting, so it doesn't ruin the game. LEGO City Undercover is a fine example of all the best parts of the LEGO games. Thanks to its graphical style and writing, it's one of the most charming games I've ever played, with a good amount of funny moments. The gameplay takes the variety of open world games, but adds to it with the LEGO mechanics, disguises and the well executed collectibles. They kept most of the gameplay fairly basic, which makes the game enjoyable to play, and I always found myself having fun with the game and I never got frustrated with it. It's great for kids, but if you want a solid open world game that doesn't take itself too seriously, it's worth playing. The only real problem is the loading, but it in no way kills the game, it just brings it down a bit. My score is 8.5 out of 10. The mix of simple but well made levels, entertaining cutscenes, a great open world and a large amount of content makes for a great Wii U title that you should play. While I'm here, let's talk about the 3DS companion game to LEGO City Undercover called LEGO City Undercover The Chase Begins. It is essentially a stripped down version of the Wii U game as it features the exact same locations and areas. It's still an open world game, but as it's limited by the 3DS, it's not quite as impressive, with a large amount of pop-in and a lot less happening on screen at one time. The special assignments have also been removed, meaning all the story missions take place in the open world. There is also not as many cutscenes and the dialogue just isn't as funny. Despite the fact that The Chase Begins is inferior in every way, it's still a solid game for the 3DS. It still has the same charm, the disguises and the puzzle solving work well, and while it takes place in the same location, the story is different and the missions are all separate from the Wii U game. The story is actually set before the Wii U game and goes through the events that are briefly mentioned at the start of the original. If you don't have a Wii U and still want to experience LEGO City Undercover, then I would recommend The Chase Begins, as it is good and most of the flaws only arise when comparing it to the Wii U version. If you've already played LEGO City Undercover, then I would still recommend The Chase Begins, as there's enough new content to make it worth playing. If you go in it with the right expectations, you can really enjoy this game. My score for LEGO City Undercover The Chase Begins is 7.0 out of 10.